welcome everybody. Be sure to hit the like button. Be sure to hit the subscribe button.
I remember in middle school when you felt self-conscious if you were the last one to go through puberty. That really went topsy-turvy, didn't it?
Sometimes the Hasbara, it's too much explaining yourself and it's too apologetic.
Be sure to hit the notifications bell.
I actually do believe Israel won't just bomb countless civilians.
Be sure to tweet this out. Be sure to put this up on your Facebook.
You have to be kind to people. Be kind to the guys in this mess in the first place.
Put this up on your Reddit.
Chile is a country.
Be sure to cut and paste, a link to this to go into your favorite Facebook chat group.
It's good to see so many normal people in here.
Now, spanking isn't just my deep, dark personal secret. It's America's deep, dark secret.
I've never seen it explained so simply anywhere.
Put this on WhatsApp. Put this on Telegram. Put this on your favorite messenger app.
Hello, and welcome to the Untitled Anarchist Seagull channel. I'm your host, an Untitled Anarchist Seagull called Elise. And how's everybody doing today, chat? As I just get in. And I thought, what better way to start out? I hadn't done anything to do with the latest fake Communist Party to come down the pike. And so I decided to just look them up. The ACP, the American Communist Party. And it turns out there's a video even. American Communist Party explained. And yeah, somebody was going to need to explain that shit. So I thought we'd have a look at that just to get started. You have the American Communist Party. Well, I mean, nice dystopian font they're using there.
I'm Azaldin, Executive Chairman of the American Communist Party.
God, this guy, Mr. Oh no, it's piss.
Since our party was founded, we have made a lot of headlines and have gained a lot of traction across almost all social media platforms.
Which is to say that they have like 5 followers and then a bunch that they bought.
But something I've noticed is that we've also generated a lot of confusion and uncertainty as far as
what kind of grifters are these? Wasn't he one of Caleb Maupin's hangers-on? I thought his thing was getting shocked about things to do with women's bodies and being a sex pest, but not in quite the same way Caleb does.
Our purpose is who we are and what we stand for. So I'm making this video in the hopes that we could lay these questions to rest and I could better clarify to the curious
See, now that he's the fake executive chairman of a fake communist party, I like how he's just got Lenin's statue just right by his elbow, so like if he gets pissed off, he can just elbow Lenin off the desk. I mean, that's just cute. But now, it used to be he would show up in like a fucking vest so he could show everybody his abs and then talk about Carl Schmitt, who was the leading legal philosopher of Nazi Germany and somebody he admires, apparently, judging from how often he quotes him, in ways that also suggest he doesn't really understand what he read.
Like, just what the American Communist Party is.
Good, we get some background. So, okay, are they going to cover the schism, the CPI schism that they came from? Back when Caleb was revealed to be a sex pest and has managed to have the worst possible take about that, which was that he was cool with, like, the violation of consent and the coercion and the exploitation and all that stuff, but he drew the line at the fact that there was, like, kink involved.
The American Communist Party was declared on July 21st of 2024.
It wasn't founded, it was declared, so they just sort of said that there is this thing.
And it was declared as the official reconstitution of the Communist Party USA. Now, if you don't know what that means...
it means that they're trying to ride coattails, but those coattails have frayed a long while ago.
It means we regard ourselves as the one and legitimate successor of the now defunct and now liquidated Communist Party USA.
Yeah, that is... Well, no, Carl Schmitt did not actually. It's Carl with a C, unusually. No, the Nazis loved him to the end. And then he managed to, because like a lot of Nazi lawyers, to get denazified, and he managed to be just sort of accepted as part of the legal community in West Germany after 1949 when they became independent. But his big thing was he was a theorist of the state of exception, which is why George W. Bush was also a really big fan of Carl Schmitt.
We regarded that party as having been liquidated and defunct on account...
Like, these words mean things. Liquidated means that their assets have been sold off. Their assets have not been sold off. But, I mean, points for uniqueness, though, because, I mean, we've never ever had a group that considers itself to be the sole legitimate representative of its tendency.
Of its usurping of democratic and constitutional protocols and its latest national convention, to say nothing of the fact that it has no practical results to show for decades, and the fact that more or less the party is just not in keeping with the times.
I mean, and let me just say, not a CPUSA stan, but, like, they are way more legit than this dickhead. I mean, yes, they practically are DSA, but with, like, a cooler name at this point. Yeah, Jordan Peterson of his time.
Being said, we did not want to set a precedent of sectarianism.
But yeah, well, good, did a good job with that one. Yeah, I mean, definitely did not set a precedent with sectarianism by declaring another fake communist party defunct.
Splitting and founding organizations on the basis of ideology alone. So we formulated something called the One Communist Party Doctrine. According to...
Well, that's convenient. So they came up with the One Communist Party Doctrine, which is not ideology. You see, it's not ideology. And it says there can only be one Communist Party, and what do you know? It says that it's got to be his.
Which, within a single country, there can only be one legitimate Communist Party, and that everyone should commit to building and improving that Communist Party, even if the leadership...
Well, there already was one, dog, so what were you doing? Like, I don't buy into this for a moment. And it's really wild if your thing is that you're going to just sort of pretend that an existing party that you don't like, that I also am not a fan of, for other, like, based reasons, not the fucking reactionary fasci reasons that, yeah, like, to declare there can only be one communist party when you're making the second one.
Has views you disagree with, or even espouses a specific interpretation of Marxism-Leninism you don't agree with. For us...
Yeah, so, like, by your own fucking doctrine that you made up, you should be in the CPUSA if they'll have you.
The emphasis needs to be on practice and practical commitments. So we think that our claim to being the one Communist Party has to be something proven through practice, not just by saying so.
I mean, the trouble is, in practice, there's a number of parties that call themselves communist in the U.S. So, I mean, as a matter of practice, it's not something you can prove. You just aren't.
To be clear,
I mean, you're not even a communist party. Let's get that out of the way. But you're certainly not the one. You're fucking Neo.
We want to set the precedent to avoid the endless cycle of sectarianism, to just having one communist party we commit to and build.
That will do it. I mean, if there's one thing that nobody thought of in all the sectarian struggles that we've experienced in, like, the past 150 years, if it's not it's to declare that there's only one legitimate representative of the tendency that happens to be one's own organization. I'm sure that if they would have had that back, during the struggles between Trotsky and Stalin and between the Bolsheviks and like the rest of the Russian Revolution and all of that, I'm sure that would have sorted it all out.
And improving, having democratic procedures to allow for the correct or wrong opinions to be tested in some kind of way. And this is the purport that is at the foundation of the American Communist Party. If you're interested...
To my knowledge, praxis and practice are synonyms. One is just more originally Greek. But I could be wrong about that, but I've never seen them used in a way where I would actually say that they are actually... that they're fundamentally different.
And what sets it apart from other self-proclaimed Marxist-Leninist organizations.
Wait, the fact that you even acknowledge that these groups exist already suggests that by having your group, you are violating your own fucking doctrine. Oh, party structure. This'll be good.
Okay, so as far as how the party's structured...
It's basically just me.
Got 3 or 4 basic levels depending on how you look at it. Okay.
Wait, he doesn't... He runs the fucking thing. He set it up. And he doesn't know whether there are 3 or 4.
So at the top, you have the executive board.
Also known as me.
The executive board consists of 7 people. This is the highest governing body within the party. Below the executive board is the Politburo. The Politburo, which is up to 12 people, are the
up to 12 people. In other words, they haven't got enough people to fill the Politburo.
Deputies of the executive board that oversee the departments led by the executive board, each executive board member. And the executive board is not answerable to the Politburo, although the...
Well, I mean, this is a whole lot of structure of what's probably, for a group that could probably fit in a passenger lift.
Input of the Politburo and consultations with the Politburo are considered very important and very valuable as far as the nature of leadership is concerned.
And they're considered very important and valuable in the long tradition of this organization, which goes back, like, fucking weeks.
Now, the Democratic governing body of the party is the Central Committee. The Central Committee is formed through elections that happen at chapter levels where they select a delegate and send them to the Central Committee. And it's the Central Committee...
Well, like, do you even have enough members to have this many committees, or is it just a bunch of people going to the same meeting and reconvening it periodically?
That scrutinizes and oversees the executive leadership. So both the executive board and by extension the Politburo are answerable to the Central Committee. What the Central Committee is tasked with doing is making sure that the executive board is able to fulfill its plans, able to fulfill its...
Like, I mean, it's wild that this is how he's starting out. This is called the American Communist Party Explained. Supposedly, this is for people who just got here. And he's nowhere near, other than saying that he stands for the idea that there can only be one communist party in a country at any time, and his is number 2 plus N. He has not actually given any indication of their principles other than suggesting that they are flexible.
Promises. And if the leadership is not, they have to come up with explanations. You know, they're answerable to the Central Committee. If those explanations are not satisfactory, that is going to weigh heavily in the elections that happen at the National Congress, which will be 1 or 2 years after the formation of the Central Committee in the coming months.
So the Central Committee hasn't actually even been formed yet?
Which will decide whether...
So it literally is just him.
Executive board needs to be replaced. So that is basically the basic structure of leadership. Now, as far as chapters, each chapter has its own executive leadership. And the structure of
How many chapters are there, Has? How many members in each chapter? Like, are there enough members to have a distinct executive leadership?
Governance and administration is actually relatively decentralized within reasonable democratic limits, because we want people to gain practical knowledge of how to associate with one another from scratch, and we want there to be both failure and learning from the failure.
Well, I'm pretty sure there will be failure.
And improvement on that basis. So we want people to learn the best ways to govern from scratch and understand the necessities of collective discipline and have that be a learning experience. That's not to say it's completely decentralized, but we want a degree of autonomy within the chapters.
Who's we at this point?
So that, you know, that at the lowest levels of membership, people understand what it means to govern and lead.
Oh, okay, here we go. The official party ideology, the OPI. We got a drum roll, too.
Now, I've noticed a lot of people are really confused about the party's official ideology. More on that.
Well, I mean, that's probably because it's headed by somebody you would not expect to be in any organization that actually fits the description of communism.
But basically, the official ideology of the American Communist Party is something we've called Marxism-Leninism Unified Tendency.
MLIT.
What the unified tendency basically means is that it's a specific interpretation of the synthesis of Marxism-Leninism that is made on the basis of practical historical contributions.
Well, this sounds like, so far, this sounds like literally every iteration of ML thought. Like, this is like literally all of them would say that this is what they are doing. And would be attempting to do it, I would assume.
To the implementation of the principles and methods of Marxism and Marxism-Leninism across history. So in general, we regard...
So, okay...
the cynicization of Marxism up to Xi Jinping thought as legitimate.
Okay, so like literally, so we're saying up to Xi Jinping thought, which is another way of just saying whatever Xi Jinping thinks. Yeah, which is to say just capitalism. I mean, it's just capitalism. Just call it capitalism.
So when it comes to the Sino-Soviet split, we share the Chinese criticism of revisionism.
I mean, how do you share the Chinese... Okay, the Sino-Soviet split, you share the Chinese criticism of revisionism, but you are including within your ideological wellspring some of the most revisionist motherfuckers in China.
We uphold even Mao's Cultural Revolution. We simultaneously recognize the significance and contribution of Deng Xiaoping's reform and opening up. And
like, okay, so you stand for basically nothing.
Finally, Xi Jinping thought is something we regard as the latest synthesis of Marxism-Leninism. That being said, we don't take a dogmatic approach.
Oh, wow, I'm glad to hear it.
When it comes to the Sino-Soviet split, for example, in the late 20th...
you know, this is what the working class has been looking for all this time. Chat, can you give me an amen here? Because, I mean, the working class, you hear that everywhere you go in this country, everywhere you go in this world. I mean, everybody's like, you know, my life sucks, but it would improve no end if there were finally an organization with a doctrine that would be undogmatic about the Sino-Soviet split. I mean, he's just touching on the things that really touch people's hearts.
Mid to late 20th century. So, for example, we don't regard Cuba and Vietnam and other Soviet-aligned states or the Warsaw Pact, for example, as having been fascist or, you know, illegitimate states, regardless of the criticism of Soviet revisionism and Soviet leadership.
Well, motherfucker, if you're an ML, you are part of... See, and I would note, when I say revisionism, I don't consider it fundamentally a bad thing. You judge whether a revision is good based on its own merits and the results that it gets. It is literally impossible to continue a tradition without revisionism, because there is always going to be some sort of new experience that you have to adapt to. I mean, so that's what gets me when I see these revisionists, like these sort of very traditional big R revisionists, talking about revisionism like it's a bad thing. Yeah, Stalin was a fucking revisionist, obviously. Lenin was too. And everybody after him, yeah, Khrushchev, yeah, big revisionist. Mao, revisionist. They were all revising in order to try to come up with something that made sense around them and made sense to them. And you can either be dishonest about it, which is what a lot of revisionists do, or you can just look at it on merit. Wow, he does like to have weapons on his wall. Like fucking cowboy 6-shooters and shit.
I think that there is a material fact
Like fucking Roy Rogers here.
of the proletarian dictatorship and socialist construction, which represent different variations of the implementation and building of socialism in different contexts. And the synthesis of Marxism-Leninism demands different contexts. So Che Guevara's
Guevara, weón. Aprende a pronunciarla, wea, conche tu madre.
theory, which in part at least was proven in the Cuban Revolution, is also something.
In part is doing a lot of work. It was kind of like the one example where it actually did work exactly as intended.
Legitimate. So roughly the unified tendency is based on the foundation of Chinese Marxism-Leninism combined with a more...
Well, I mean, your picture, like, who the hell is this for? I mean, if you're trying to bring the working class into your organization, and you say, okay, you're going to sit through this video, it's going to explain the party. Well, where does it explain what the party does and what it stands for? Well, no, wait, get to that. We're going to talk about the Sino-Soviet split first, because that matters very much to our very creepy ruler.
Integral and total perspective about the history of Marxism-Leninism in the 20th century. Now, as far as a new synthesis, as applied to the American context, we don't claim to actually have discovered that yet.
Yeah, well, yeah. So, why don't you call us when you do?
That's something that can only be proven through a new contribution to history itself.
This guy, like, so the one thing that he claims to have innovated is the idea that there can only be one communist party in a country. He proceeds to set up another party calling itself communist, in addition to the various ones that already existed, including the main one that most people who have heard of these things have heard of. And that's like literally all he's got, other than some very vague and abstract musings on the Sino-Soviet split. Like, is this just is he supposed to sound clever to ignorant people here? Or is he supposed to bore people into not wondering what the party is actually all about? Like, because there's no way, or does he really think that this is what, like, the working class wants to hear about in this historical moment?
So through practice. So we're leaving an open door as far as how Marxism-Leninism, the story so far, can be synthesized in the future. We just want to be clear about where the record stands and what the story is so far. This is Marxism-Leninism.
There was some shit up until now, and we haven't really got anything to add, but we wanted to point out that there was some stuff up until now.
It contains a lot of wisdom and knowledge and experience.
Wisdom, knowledge, experience. Wow.
Across a lot of different contexts.
Across a lot of different contexts. Wow, I mean, that's the best kind of wisdom and knowledge and experience. So what you're saying is we don't really need your organization. We can just look at the books that were already written?
That is a material,
thing.
A material fact.
It's some material shit.
It's not just an ideology. It's not just an idea. It contains wisdom that has been proven by
Like material wisdom, it's like physical wisdom, and let me tell you, it's fucking sticky.
history, okay? So the importance we place on practice when it comes to how you
Practicing what exactly, other than this long-ass speech?
contribute to that and enrich that and further that knowledge. And that is our view of Marxism-Leninism, and that is right now the official ideology of the party. By the way, one of the consequences of this fact...
Oh wow, you know, that's what I was wondering. What is one of the consequences of this fact? Yeah, I know, I mean, we all just wanted to know in the midst of, like, the fucking genocide and the other genocide and the fucking just meltdown of this empire and the climate destruction, what we really wanted to know is Haz's take on the Sino-Soviet split.
Is that there's a lot of room for disagreement. There's a lot of room for debate.
I agree. There is a lot of room for disagreement.
A lot of room for discussion as far as what the next synthesis of Marxism-Leninism as applied to the American context in the 21st century is going to be. All we're saying is that it has...
No, what we are saying is that there's going to be, like, some kind of a synthesis at some point. Like, usually, I mean, hacky sort of organizations, they will at the very least give you some sort of ideological statement that you can apply to your life. Here, he's promising that one day they might have an ideological statement you can apply to your life.
Be proven through practice. We're also saying that regardless of disagreements, there needs to be collective discipline as far as binding collective decisions made by the party itself. But there's room for people to actually figure this out. We're not claiming to have the answer.
Well, I mean, you certainly have not given anyone any reason to suspect it.
Anyone who's claiming to have the answer is wrong because they haven't proven it yet. If you...
Wait. Okay, but the thing is, if you have the answer, then you have the answer. If you subsequently prove it, then you've proven that you have the answer, but you already have the thing.
You have an idea of what direction we should be going in.
Which is, please call me and let me know, because I'm kind of at sea here.
And you can somehow persuade the majority of that. We can actually test it. So we wanted to build not a receptacle of some kind of ideological dogma.
I mean, it sounds kind of like a dogma receptacle. I mean, I wouldn't exactly write it off as a list of possible dogma receptacles from what I've heard so far.
But a practical framework to experiment and discover what the next synthesis of Marxism-Leninism is going to be.
Well, I mean, you know, I mean, again, this is what the workers are crying. Everyone is like, I mean, nobody gives a shit about, like, how they're gonna pay the rent or get health care in this fucking country. Nobody cares about any of that. What they want to know is what the framework is for the next synthesis of Marxist-Leninist ideology in the American context.
Without having that having to lead to a bunch of different splits and divisions. We're all united as far as the same commitment, which is deepening and...
The same commitment to what, though? You haven't actually said, other than the commitment to be the only party that the party that considers it the only legitimate bearer of the name Communist Party.
Furthering and inheriting the history of Marxism-Leninism. And that is
so that sounds a little bit like a dogma receptacle. I mean, it's not dogma receptacle.
Really sets us apart, I think. The square one accomplishment we've actually made so far, practically, is being able to unify people.
What people?
Who have ideological disagreements on the basis of a practical commitment.
Ew.
No, if you're...
Okay, so ideology didn't tell us shit, except that they don't apparently have one yet, except that they're kind of on the Chinese side of the Sino-Soviet split, except not really, and they think they are going to pretend they think revisionism is bad, even though they're working on their own new approach to revisionism, but they don't have one yet.
Curious about the question of what our party actually does. Watch this to get a brief introduction.
Okay, so it sounds like they're just standing around other people's strikes. Okay, this shows me absolutely nothing. I mean, I would be very curious to know if any of the people shown, I mean, none of them are showing ACP emblems or anything like that. They could be just about anybody. And if these are all ACP members, then why is it that they're completely alone in those photos? Wow, they walk next to trucks. They talk to people in trucks. Is that a body? Okay, they clean up after themselves. That's nice. Like, wait, okay, they harvest crops at a farm. Like, were there not farm workers doing that? That sounds a little bit scabby, actually. Like, what's the deal here? We're posing. От Американской коммунистической партии. They couldn't even print it out. Okay, they're sending stuff. Okay, so somebody wrote in by hand, it's worth noting, on some of these boxes, sometimes on a piece of paper on the boxes, but sometimes on a piece of, on the box itself, saying, from an American Communist Party. And there's something from the KPRF, I mean the CPRF, the Russian so-called Communist Party, who basically are just Putin glazers. There's a guy by the name of Andrei Rudoy, who's a Russian ML, and has been declared a foreign agent because of how critical he is of the of Putin and all, and also of the CP there, and he calls them red Putinists. He's done actually some excellent videos. They're all in Russian. I think some of them might have English subs on various aspects of Russian politics that are very well worth watching.
So our strategy, as far as building up the
communist, literally, their work is nothing that they can actually describe in any detail. They have one or two. Yeah, exactly. The editing and the music, it's like, wow, there's all sorts of stuff going on, and except they're not interviewing people. They're not like interviewing anyone who has seen them. It's not even clear who in those pictures are actually in the ACP and who aren't.
This party is concerned is building leadership and good standing locally through community service, through labor organizing, participating in the national labor movement, and getting a foot in the door when it comes to local politics. So,
I mean, it's interesting. We're 11 minutes in. We've gone through like 4 different sections. And what these people say they stand for is still a mystery.
It is a strategy that has many prongs, and it is fundamentally based in creating a new dialogue.
It has prongs.
Between communists and the American working class.
Okay, and when are you going to get some communists involved?
The American people at large. So we are trying to take Marxism-Leninism from the ivory tower of universities and internet circles to something that
the ivory tower of internet circles
can prove its relevance and application in the day-to-day issues and lives.
Well, like, again, one way you could prove its relevance and application is if you could actually say what the fuck this was about. Like, okay, I'm going to skip around a little bit, see what other sections we've got here. Oh, okay, the national question.
We reject all of the territories and colonies held by the United States.
That includes the entire, including the entire country, that colony?
As part of this country, we reject colonialism outright. We believe in the independence of Puerto Rico, for example.
Okay, but what does it mean to reject colonialism when you're in a fucking colony?
In solidarity with other colonized peoples seeking independence. And as far as the American continent is concerned, encompassed by the United States and Canada, we believe in the promotion of one unique American civilization.
Okay, so you reject colonialism except when it happens to suit you. Because there are like hundreds of unique indigenous civilizations in this territory.
Which is a mixture in the main, not exclusively, but in the main, of African descendants of slaves, indigenous Americans, European immigrants, and also Latino peoples, right? These are the main groups which we believe...
which it's worth noting that is a worthless descriptor. I mean, for one thing, a lot of the people who would be described that way would reject it because a lot of them are indigenous, and they really don't like having a European descriptor tagged onto them. And they'd say, no, I'm Nawa, I'm Mapuche, I'm Tehuelche.
Constitute one unique American civilization. Of course, there are other groups that I have not mentioned, but the important thing is that we believe in one unified American nation. We don't believe...
okay, so you're just completely dog shit on this.
...in separating people on the basis of race, and so on and so on. Of course, there are nuances when it comes to the recognition of different indigenous tribes and so on, but in general...
indigenous people and that shit. Clearly, he's given a lot of thought to this.
In general, we seek the promotion of a unified American civilization. And that is basically our view.
Why is that good? Why is a unified American civilization good, though? Like, why do I give a shit if there's a unified American civilization if I can't fucking make rent? I'm fine with lots of different civilizations. How about lots of different civilizations? As many civilizations as people feel inclined to create. As long as everybody gets to have a decent fucking standard of living within it.
American national question.
Okay, so the closest thing to an actual practical statement on some sort of topical political issue, I mean, I'm not surprised that it's dog shit, because it's Has. Has is fash. I mean... I disagree with the CPUSA on a lot of things, but keeping him out, if that's indeed what happened, that is a totally understandable and laudable decision. But, so his, one foray into actually having a position on something, dog shit.
Well, we certainly don't believe or anticipate that we'll ever win a presidential election. Our strategy is based...
Thank fuck for that, I will say.
...based on an analysis of the current trajectory of the United States of America, which we believe is headed toward a constitutional crisis and ultimately a civil war.
I mean, and again, it's really just fascinating watching people who... I've listened to enough of him to know he has actually read a fair bit. I would say probably more than Caleb Muppet. Who seems to be a skimmer. But to be talking about this stuff and talking about civil war and not acknowledging that if we look at the modern way of analyzing these things around low intensity conflict, or Frank Kitsen's shit, if we look at it in terms of the way these things are normally play out in the modern era, we're already in one. I mean, you have virtually everything you need for it. You have fascist paramilitaries acting as sort of deniable parastate actors and carrying out all kinds of attacks. You have the official, like regular forces, who are also targeting a lot of the exact same people. All of it in order to terrorize elements of the society who are likely to reject the direction things they're headed in because it's particularly shit for them. The one thing we're actually missing in this situation is not bloodshed. Like, I mean, including just specifically ideologically motivated fucking bloodshed, because we're getting that from Fash already, and we have for a very long time now. Well, I mean, what we lack is anyone, any kind of organizations that are really putting up a fight at the level it calls for on the other side. This is like the war in the north of Ireland, except without the raw, basically.
It suffices for us to just build up an organization and a model of governance, a model of organizing human beings.
Okay, so it is a model of organizing human beings. It's going to be another one of these where it's like, we're just going to keep building the party. And are you going to participate in struggles? Well, yes, to the extent that they build the party. It's going to be a recruiting funnel.
That will survive this crisis. As long as we can prepare for that, survive and endure that, we think that the Communist Party will be a viable alternative.
God, please do not let this survive that. If we make it through all this other shit, please let us not have to deal with Haz's bullshit afterwards.
Form of power, in other words, dual power, right, that the American people can look to. The important thing is the building of dual power for us.
Well,
we do not advocate anything.
That is so novel.
Legal. We do not advocate anything criminal. We really think that the United States, by itself, without any help from us or any need for our help, is headed toward some kind of constitution of the strategic...
Okay, here we go. The party program, which is one of the shortest sections of this. It's like a minute and a half.
Industries of the economy. And party program includes things like total debt cancellation, the nationalization of the strategic industries of the economy, the promotion of alternative economic...
What are the strategic industries of the economy at this point, though? Like, that is not a straightforward... You can't... This isn't like the 50s when you could say, obviously, it's the shipyards and the steel mills and the railways and stuff like that. Well, I mean, like, the railways and the logistic hubs would actually... I mean, they would kind of have to be in there, I suppose. But other than that, it's really kind of up in the air what you call the strategic industries in this, in many ways, deindustrialized society.
Economic forms, post-capitalist economics, information economy,
information economy is just another level of capitalism, though. I mean, it's not even a new one. That was like literally what all the fucking wonks were talking about in 1990s. Like Newt Gingrich was talking about how we were now in the information economy.
Industrial Revolution. If you want to know more about our party program, acp.us, all of it. With the construction of a People's National Bank and the revolutionizing of the system of finance that is currently in place.
Okay, yeah, we're skipping over. Okay, I think I've had enough of Haz. But, yes, we've now had the ACP explained to us. Well, not really. Now I thought we'd look at the 1630 Fund's own David Pacman. He says he stunned a corporate host in the in his MSNBC debut. And as a corporate host himself... Hang on.
Trump is facing a revolt on everything from the Epstein files to the high prices, and we're joined now by our friend MSNBC analyst Jason Johnson. And as we scan the world for all the interesting people,
they scanned all of the world for all the interesting people, but then the fucking software on their scanner kind of took a shit, and they ended up with David Pacman.
Their own citizen journalism and progressive commentary.
Citizen journalism. Like, this guy, I mean, he gets $8,000 a month from a dark money group, and he acts like he's some scrappy little fucking independent outfit.
I am excited to welcome the host of the David Pacman Show. A lot of people probably seen it on YouTube. They have over 3 million subscribers, billions
inexplicably
of views. Also author of The Echo Machine, How Right-Wing Extremism Created a Post-Truth America.
God, there's a term that is itself very post-truth, because it sort of pretends that we weren't already being constantly gaslighted. Like, I mean, the entire society is built around just gaslighting us about all sorts of essential things, and already was.
You know, I like Jason. I see him all the time. David, we're especially excited because you're new here. Welcome.
Thank you.
Like, what exactly is Pac-Man going to have to actually contribute to this that anyone else could not already have seen? Yeah, okay, so this is Trump wobbling on tariffs again. Well, that's obvious. Like, he does this thing, and then it turns out the capitalists overwhelmingly are not happy about it, because he's essentially economically sanctioning the U.S., which other people are supposed to do. So he's taking their jobs on top of everything else. And so then he takes it back because he realizes that, you know, he cuts his losses on these things, and then he tries it again later on to see if it's still, maybe it'll work this time.
What do you see in a really widening revolt over affordability and the high prices, with Trump's usual propaganda apparently not working as well?
Well, there's two things here, and as is often the case, there's what is happening and what is it that was promised. One of the interesting things is that Trump's not a great liar in that he just goes, prices are down, and prices aren't down.
I mean, I don't think that makes him not a great liar. I just think that makes him a liar. Like, he's not a great liar because he says stuff and it's not true. That's not how that works.
Besant is better, where he will say, inflation has come down.
Oh, yeah, okay, which is, like, that was the line that guys like Pac-Man, I don't know if him personally, but a lot of people like him, were saying all through, like, 2023, 2024, after the major inflation. They're like, wow, the inflation has gone way down, though, so everything's fine. And it's like, no, because the prices are still way beyond what anyone can fucking afford. Like, I mean, this is literally the same lie that we had, like, in the last administration, which is technically not a lie because, yeah, inflation went down, but it does not actually mean that anything's cheaper.
And of course, this is sort of like if you were going 80 on the highway and then you slow down to 60. It's like day one of calculus. You're still moving forward, and prices are
now I almost want to... I don't feel like really doing this because it would be a pain in the ass because of the way that he names his videos with just clickbait bullshit that really does not help anyone who's trying to figure out what he said on a particular thing. But I have a feeling that if you looked back sometime in the past, like in 2023, 2024, you'd probably hear him saying the exact thing that he is attributing to Besant, which is indeed bullshit.
Still going up. And so when you look at the data from June of 23 until now, inflation has basically bounced between 2.5 and 3. Most of that time, Biden was president. It's lower than those COVID-era peaks of inflation.
I mean, we're still in COVID.
But the promise that was made was prices will come down.
I'm still waiting for this host to be stunned.
The day I become president-elect, the day I'm sworn in, within 30 days, you reported in Washington Post, New York Times.
Well, well, I guess he put his eyebrows up.
And I'm reminded of the old Mark Twain quote, what do the price of eggs and the Epstein files have in common? lied about him and everyone's angry. Not a real quote.
Yeah, and not even all that clever.
Over him lying. Longtime Trump critics go, are you kidding me? This is the guy we knew. But
well, yes, and in fact, most of his supporters are also, like, the really diehard ones are like, yeah, this is exactly what we were expecting, because his supporters tend to be economically better off.
Politics is always about addition. If you add a handful of House Republicans who say they're mad that he lied about Epstein and they're going to vote on the petition there, it matters. You add MTG messaging on affordability, it matters. What do you see here in something that for many people might seem like obvious, but is hurting?
And apparently, I've read that when she retires, as she said she's about to do, she's going to have like $25 million in totally legal congressional insider trading to the good in her accounts.
The thing that's wrong is the thing that we can all see and consume, right? Or McDonald's.
Okay, this is not as much Pac-Man as I thought. And it is time for another old friend. Okay, this is Caleb Muppet is going to tell us what's gone wrong with the left. With some guy I've never heard of called Academic Agent.
Well, hello everyone. Again, something a little bit different today. I have a guest, Caleb Morpin.
He got the autofocus working.
And earlier in the week, I did an interview with Todd, who I believe you've met before, Praise of Folly, where we talked about what's gone wrong on the online right, populist right, the dissident right.
Well, I mean, your kind of people, Caleb.
And today, I want to have a look at the other side. I want to have a look at what's gone wrong with the modern left.
Like, okay, but why would he know?
What is the modern left? Is the modern left actually the real left? If it's not, what happened to the real left?
Like,
all of these sorts of questions, because I've started reading my Marxism again. I've got stacks of books here on Althusser and the Stalinist economy and so on. And in this journey...
I just translated a book about Althusser. It's going to be coming up fairly soon from the Edinburgh University Press.
I came across your the work of...
Oh, thank you. I am quite proud of that. I did that like a year or so ago. It's one of my first computer animations. I'm still happy with it. I was trying to base it on the sort of animations you see on North Korean television when they're introducing anything to do with the latest party congress.
Caleb here, and he's actually written lots of really fascinating books.
I mean, that tells you he hasn't read them.
This one, as someone who's, written lots of stuff on elite theory, what is a counter gang was really interesting.
And completely anticipated by the people who've actually written good books on the subject.
And we'll talk more about that in a second, but he's got lots. I mean, I think this is one of the latest ones, isn't it? Divisions in the ruling class, Trotsky and the neo...
Look how thin these are, too, because it's just Twitter threads.
Conservatives. One of the true villains of 20th century history is Trotsky, if you ask me. The battle for Soviet history and why it matters, Khrushchevism, and many other books. This is like just scratching the surface. So why don't we... the real left?
communist movement, the communism, is that it was a three-stage process. That coming out of World War II, you had the global communist movement, the communist parties that had trade unions and millions of people aligned with them. In the United States, they were crushed with McCarthyism, and during McCarthyism, the CIA launched a program called the Congress for Cultural Freedom, and that program.
This isn't exactly okay. Here, he's doing one of his favorite things, which is to slag off modern art and but the thing about it is, Jackson, the reason the CIA got into funding the Congress for Cultural Freedom was specifically in order to spoil Jackson Pollock his relations with the Soviet Union. Because Pollock himself was an ML. He actually was on very good terms with Moscow. But if the CIA was visibly involved, at least visibly to the KGB, involved in the Congress for Cultural Freedom, then that would kind of cause them to sour on him.
Began funneling money to leftists, academics, college professors, artists, and others. And the idea was to kind of promote leftists who were against communism. And against the official, Soviet-aligned communism. But it was about a lot more than that. They were kind of reinventing the aesthetics of leftism. This is when they funded Jackson Pollock's paintings, right?
Yeah.
Thought social realism, which was the artistic style that, the mural...
Oh, God, this guy has never looked at... He knows nothing about Soviet art. He just takes... Socialist realism was the specific form of art that you find on a lot of party propaganda posters. It was hardly the only form of art that was promoted in the Soviet Union. They were actually very big on abstract art in the Soviet bloc. If you look at movie posters from the Soviet bloc, from Czechoslovakia and others, I mean the Soviet Union itself, they would bring in Western movies. And often they, would have local artists do movie posters for them, and the movie posters are abstract art.
Of Diego Rivera, John Steinbeck, and the Grapes of Wrath, they didn't like that. They thought it was totalitarian, so they started funding, the work of Jackson Pollock, who just splatters paint on a canvas, and they started funding all kinds of art that was. Art that didn't have real...
I mean, this is him just doing Entartete Kunst. This is his version of degenerate art.
And was just kind of a celebration of disorganization and confusion. And they were not just pushing an anti-Soviet brand of politics, they were also changing something psychological. And, you have the rise of Susan Sontag, Notes on Camp. And,
who he totally lies about in his book. Yeah. I mean, and in cinema, too, Soviet cinema was full of all sorts of experimental stuff. I mean, he reliably, when Muppet talks about the Soviet Union, and particularly, cultural stuff, he's reliably talking about the most reactionary elements of the most reactionary period in the entire history of the state.
As a fake right, and then... this thing that you're describing, the new left, I guess, on the left, and then the trajectory goes, as you described it. I just find it really kind of, because they talk about the paranoid style of American politics.
Well, it's funny that you should bring that up, because Caleb's entire fucking bibliography is exploiting the paranoid style in American politics.
But this is the paranoid style of government. It's they leave nothing to chance. It is really quite totalitarian in its own way.
Yeah, except they do leave lots of things to chance. They fuck up regularly. A lot of the reason we know about these things is because they fucked up.
Because they don't allow anything. One of the questions I've got for you, you mentioned Occupy and Woke. One of the things I've noticed that happened, certainly this has happened with MAGA, as one example. In MAGA, you've got people who've been there from the start. You've got true patriots. You've got...
just white nationalists.
People who just love Trump, obviously. But then you've got people who, have a kind of a set of convictions, what they want for America, bringing manufacturing back and all of this sort of stuff. Maybe Steve Bannon will be...
There might be certain other things, too. Something about, 14 words, maybe?
One example, although there were question marks about him. But maybe Steve Bannon will be one example, although there were question marks about him.
I mean, he's a good example of a fascist, yes.
But over time, and it's actually playing out in a very public way at the moment, what happened there is that simply those true blue people were actually just displaced. Actually physically displaced by Zionists in this case.
I mean, no, they weren't. Those true blue people overwhelmingly are Zionists.
Okay, by system stooges.
They are that thing.
So I guess they call it crowding out. Did that happen in the Occupy movement? Did it happen in the left-wing space where you had...
Caleb tried to do it in Occupy, but it didn't go over well. And for some reason, he decided to put the video of him attempting it on YouTube. To show us all how embarrassed he was.
Communists and so on, and they were just muscled out by this new kind of rainbow coalition of people, or in some cases, were they the same people who turned?
Well, at the time of Occupy Wall Street, if you'll remember, a couple years before that, the U.S. economy had crashed, and it was clear that some of the elite thought, the communist groups are so weak and they're so irrelevant. Now would be a great time for them to go out and do their thing to help Obama kind of, pass some regulations on Wall Street, et cetera. And, I think it was Newsweek said we're all socialists now.
Oh, God. I mean, is he trying to suggest, that Obama wanted Occupy? Occupy was very much against him. And it's worth remembering that the White House coordinated the vicious police assault on the encampments in multiple cities at once, which included at least one attempted murder that was nearly successful in, I think, Boulder, Colorado, someplace in Colorado anyway.
Michael Moore made this movie, Capitalism, a Love Story, and there was kind of there was almost a moment where they were kind of nudging the communist groups, and the communist groups were so weak and ineffective. The establishment had already determined they weren't a threat in any way, but they didn't realize that they were just incapable of being useful stooges. I mean, they were just completely, and I was there and I attended.
Also, Obama did not want to pass regulations on Wall Street. In fact, he rejected most of them.
The U.S. Social Forum in 2007 and then in 2010, and the ruling class, they were handing out foundation money and all that, and they were hoping the communist groups would do it for them, and they just couldn't do it. And so,
couldn't or wouldn't?
So,
if you handed out, if you wanted to turn a fucking a communist group, whatever will we mean by that when fucking Caleb's saying it, into some sort of NGO money funnel, you could do that fairly easily, because the thing about any kind of organizing, it doesn't matter what, it doesn't really matter who, is that the people who want to do stuff will flock to the places where it seems like stuff is being done. And one way to be a place where stuff is being done is if you've got the funding, if you've got money from someplace that you can go and do stuff. That is reliably the case, and it doesn't even matter. The political spectrum does not matter. In that regard. This was a thing when, from what we know from lots of declassified and leaked documents from the German Domestic Intelligence Service's long history of financing neo-Nazi groups. One of the things that they observed is, they had initially were trying to just, hook up with the leader, but then they realized whoever was getting money from them became the leader, because whoever was getting money from them suddenly had time on their hands to do stuff. And because they were the guy who was doing stuff in a given place, automatically everyone else who wanted to do stuff, all the other Nazis who wanted to do stuff, would flock to this person to do stuff with him because there's money there. He's doing things. Everybody else is like trying to hold down a job or something like that. Like, so this isn't a matter of couldn't. I mean, if you dropped, you know, if you were to like drop $1 billion in, like, say, Haz's little bullshit organization there, put $1 billion in there and say, hey, dole this out to people that you think are worthy or whatever, because somebody in the ruling class has decided that the ACP is a useful dead end to bring the working class into, then, you know, the ACP will become a big thing, you know, completely apart, despite the fact that they are like at great pains to not be anything. I mean, it's the same thing with so much of this far-right media. These motherfuckers are nothing. They've got no skills, they've got no talent, nobody gives a shit about them fundamentally. Until somebody puts a couple of $1 million in their hands, gives them production values, and all of a sudden, they're something. I mean, that's all it is, so there isn't a matter of couldn't. I mean, you know, either these groups didn't go along with it, or the, you know, ruling class foundations didn't see anything that anyone that they trusted with that kind of money.
Wall Street was kind of take two, and that was, you know, this guy David Graeber, who had been involved in the
I mean, he was one of many people who were involved in that appeal.
Protests, and was tied in with Soros and all of that. And
no, I mean, he wasn't. But of course, I mean, it's fucking Caleb Muppet, so we got to do an anti-Semitism. And apparently he doesn't know that Graeber was Jewish too, so he could have just saved himself the Soros.
They brought in a lot of the people from Eastern Europe, people from Otpor, which is the like group that they used to bring down Milosevic. It's like their symbol is a fist, and they were like a color revolution to bring down the Serbian government. They brought some of them in, and Occupy from the beginning, it was kind of like the left was so bad. I mean, what was left of the communist groups, they had been just so badly battered by the FBI and just, you know, and decades of this foot soldier.
Okay, skipping ahead, since we're not made of time here.
You know, able to force society to change, mass movements, etc. And he argues terrorism can lead to civil war, where the old order kind of collapses. And I've been reading a lot of counterinsurgency literature.
And that does not surprise me, since, I mean, that is kind of the business he's in.
You know, from Frank Kitson.
Yeah, this does not surprise me again, like, because he was using Kitson's own terminology, misusing it, I should say, for several years before he ever mentioned the name. Kitson is the guy who came up with the concept of low-intensity conflict. He also came up with the concept of counter-gangs, which he debuted when he was involved in the occupation of Kenya. And no, I think Caleb would acknowledge COINTELPRO was very much a thing, except that he would say that all of his political rivals are part of it. But so then Kitson gets involved in the occupation of Ireland with the Paras there, and he really brings it into fruition and sets up all these like sort of arm's length British irregular forces that go around murdering people.
That's the word counter gang, comes from Frank Kitson, and he talks about how societies are in like kind of a sliding scale. You have subversion, which is just people opposing the establishment, but then that can lead to what he calls terrorism, which, I mean, wouldn't use that word the same way, but it means people are exercising power and actually, you know, able to force society to change, mass movements, etc. And he argues terrorism can lead to civil war, where the old order kind of collapses.
Which is kind of funny, because he was never involved in anything that you could actually call civil war. I mean, he was very much involved in trying to turn things into civil war that weren't that. Like, what he came into in Ireland was not civil war. That was a colonial occupation that had decided to go just buck wild and terrorize an indigenous population, and the indigenous population started fighting back, and his job was to shut down the indigenous resistance and maintain British control over the occupied counties. And now, in that context, he tried to make a civil war happen by promoting arms length fascist death squads like the UVF and the Glen Ann Gang and various others, whose whole thing was just to murder random Catholics.
And breaks into different camps, and you have, you know, the potential for a new government or a new system to come into being, and so you have to control subversion. And I believe very clearly what's going on now is a counterintelligence, operation, what you might call a counterinsurgency. They are very much
in this context, Caleb, maybe you could tell us how the fuck you could afford to run around the country despite the fact that you have nothing to offer anyone.
Dissident ideas on the right and the
I mean, I will say I do not have any evidence that he is, and I will not assert that he is. But if he isn't, then then he's missing a payday.
And that's very, very clear. I mean, the killing of Charlie Kirk, for example, the way that that was, it was just advertised all over social media, all these leftists that were celebrating it.
Because normal people fucking hated the guy.
First of all, if you were a leftist, the memo got sent out. That's what you should do. You should be...
The memo got sent out, yes. We needed to be told that we don't like Charlie Kirk. The memo got sent out. Like, show us the memo, Caleb. Where's the memo?
Celebrating the murder of this guy. Also, the right was then traumatized by images of all these people.
No, they weren't. They were fucking celebrating it too in their own way, because for them, it was an opportunity to do more of the stuff that they were already doing. Like, just look at the fucking Merry Widow. Tell me they're fucking traumatized.
Celebrating the murder of this man. To put into their mind, look at this. Like, this is the left. They want to kill you. They want to kill you.
I mean, it's fascinating. He's talking about sending the memo out, and he's not talking about how the ruling class immediately, like across the media spectrum and from the White House on down, we're all giving this edict. You must pretend to be sad. You must pretend that you respected this guy. You must pretend that this is a sad day for the country and a national trauma and everything, and we will literally try to deport you if you don't pretend effectively. There was a memo that went out. It wasn't on the left. We did not need to be told that we don't like that fucker, because anyone of us who was familiar with him knew that he sucked. What the fuck?
Family. And they don't want any genuine kind of populist coalition to emerge from below. I've compared it a lot to the years of lead in Italy.
Because he really loves to compare things to low-hanging fruit. He doesn't understand enough about any of these things to make a meaningful comparison, but he likes using the phrases because it makes him sound clever.
Gladio.
Yeah.
How, in Italy was getting ready to leave NATO during the 1970s. Public opinion in Italy was against, NATO and wanted independence, was critical of the United States. And the way that Italy was kept in NATO was with Operation Gladio. And that it started out with, fascist groups that were kind of being nudged and backed by the CIA to kill communists. But then it got to the point that then you had the Red Brigades, which were and I pointed out, he says he loves the Black Panthers. They supported North Korea. They sent delegations, because I didn't even know who he was, what I understand. So he doesn't completely have the line that if you're anti-imperialist, you're a Nazi, which was the standard bread tube line. But
that was that was never the standard bread tube line. Virtually all of the people that he's talking about would describe themselves as opposed to imperialism. It wasn't if you're against imperialism, you're a Nazi. It's if you're interested in being a fucking Nazgul, then you're a Nazi.
Yeah, he's a more new development, but I would put him in the same category.
Who is?
Completely. He will occasionally, he's one of the, in the day, he's, come out of the, so now he's a more recent development.
Strikes me as another one of these sorts of figures. Is he,
I would say so. Now
Who is?
At the moment on the left. Okay. So you mentioned Destiny, and you mentioned...
Oh yeah, Destiny, who he calls part of Bread Tube. Like, which should be enough to discredit the entire book, because anyone who knows anything about Destiny knows that not only is he not part of whatever BreadTube is, which is not an organization, but he literally hates everyone in it.
The points, okay, and Philosophy Tube. But there are some, I mean, what about Hassan Piker? He's quite a big name at the moment on the left. I mean, he, again, in my mind, strikes me as another one of these sorts of figures. Is he?
I would say so. Now, he's a more recent development. He wasn't as big back in the day. He's, you know, come out of the blue more recently, but he's definitely, yeah, he's one of the new voices that's being highlighted. He will occasionally say pro-China things, from what I understand. So he doesn't completely have the line that if you're anti.
I mean, he literally interviewed a Yemeni sailor who was involved in the sanctions against Israel.
You're a Nazi, which was the standard BreadTube line. But yeah, he's a more new development, but I would put him in the same
standard BreadTube line.
Vaush, he's another one. Right?
Vaush. Yeah, another fucking nonce. I mean, Caleb and Vaush should get along a lot better than they do.
Yeah.
Oh, he's something special. Now, I debated Vaush because I didn't even know who he was.
It was the first time that anyone had ever made Vaush look knowledgeable.
But
and somehow it worked the other way too. Somehow Vaush managed to make this motherfucker look more knowledgeable than he has any business looking when he's in knowledgeable company. And he managed to do the same to Vaush because both of them were just so fucking ignorant. But I'm just noticing the time. It is time to start wrapping up.
Vaush was running this line that if you support North Korea, you're the same as a Nazi. And I pointed out, you know,
I mean, I don't think he said exactly that.
Says he loves the Black Panther.
It wouldn't. I mean, he did say some nonsense about fascism being when the government regulates the economy.
They supported North Korea. They sent delegations there. They studied Kim Il-sung's works.
I mean, they didn't actually. They didn't universally have a high opinion of Juche ideology. It's worth noting.
Fred Hampton praised Kim Il-sung, and they studied it, and it just seems like, I mean, you list all these great people that you know, that were anti-imperialists, that were aligned with the Soviet Union, like Albert Einstein. You know, I mean, it's like every iconic leftist of the
Einstein was a social democrat.
20s, 30s, and 40s was supporting the Soviet Union, but according to him, no, anyone who would admire.
Well, what in the 40s, yes. I mean, I wonder if there was something going on at that particular time that led a lot of people to support the Soviet Union who otherwise didn't.
The Soviet Union, admire North Korea, they're all the same as Hitler. And the pedophile thing is very, very weird. You know,
maybe you shouldn't be talking about weird PDF file things, Caleb. Maybe you're not the one to be talking about that.
For years, people were saying there was something up there. And then I guess
I wonder if people something up there.
Gun was when he put, you know, like literal, you know, child pornography on the screen of one of his debates.
Tell us again about whose secrets, who fucking exploits recovering addicts to make them do sex work for you.
It was like drawn child pornography, so it was legal. And it was like on the screen while he was streaming, and everyone's just like, what in the world is going on there? That was...
Yeah. But, I mean, like, yeah, all of that was very true, but also, like, Caleb is not one to talk there. But it is time for me to wrap up. Thanks to everyone who joined in. I hope you enjoyed the stream. I will be back next week at 11:30 p.m. U.S. Eastern Time on Friday, and I look forward